So this guy created a huge disaster in Nigeria when he decided to update their national currency without a solid plan of how that was supposed to happen. And as a result, the country fell apart, families suffered, citizens became more desperate, protests ensued, and people were even killed. In my last video, we spoke briefly with one of those citizens impacted by the stupidity of Nigeria's central bank leadership. Here now is the full interview. I'm delighted to have with us today Ms. Zibi Anani from Lagos, Nigeria. She is the creative director of Zad Africa, an African fashion online platform which caters to the African fashion needs of both local and international clients. Hey, welcome and thank you for joining us. How are you today?
Very well, thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me on your show.
It's a pleasure. Well, first question is, how is the lack of money affecting the security issues in Nigeria?
Oh, it's been alarming. There's definitely been an increase. I, as an individual, citing the new Naira notes from a distance, it's like my ears and antennas just, pops. Because I'm like, how did you even source for that cash? Then I know I actually have credit. I have money in my own personal account. How much more those who are striving and struggling in society to even earn in the first place. So you find out that POS points are endangered. These POS agents have decided to hide. If you do not have the direct contact to call them that you want to get some money from them, they are not coming out because we have loads of them on the streets. But they're not there anymore because they're afraid that it could be robbed from hoodlums or even passers-by. You have undergrads or even college students who run that as a job with limited funds coming from the banks and the insecurity that comes with it. So rarely have them around or even on streets. You're not even walking into the bank. You've seen videos online where you see people fighting at ATM point.
Right.
Because they are limited to even the amount of cash they can withdraw. I think you can't withdraw more than 2,000 Naira depending on the points you're using. And you actually have funds in your account but you can't have access to them because there's a limit to how much individuals can withdraw. You're going into the bank, you cannot be giving more than 10,000 Naira over the count. So you're limited even to your own cash.
That would seem like that was the reason for some of the outbursts inside the banks where people had said they had X amount supposedly in their account. And they just wanted to get a small portion of that, and the bank wouldn't even give them up to the portion that they were requesting.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's kind of scary because if they implement the Naira, the central bank could say the same thing because they can control the flow of
Exactly. Yes.
that money and that distribution to and from the customer.
You have power and total control over your money, the money you have in your bank.
That's the danger of a CBDC.
May I also add that in 2 weeks, we'll be having the election on the 25th precisely, and it's already chaotic. People are barging into stores. The increase of theft is overwhelming over the past few weeks.
How is it impacting you as a family?
Negatively. The scarcity has been going on for 3 weeks or more. We find it very difficult accessing cash. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't say I have seen the new Naira notes. I've actually seen them from a distance, actually. So maybe, vendors or buyers or sellers exchanging it, but I haven't actually had a bundle or even one note with me. So that explains how scarce it's been. For my family, shopping has been almost impossible because we actually need the new Naira notes to do our grocery shoppings. Vendors or sellers have actually come up with alternatives by saying, okay, could you do a quick transfer and then as long as they confirm confirmation of the credits and then you can get the item or whatever you want to purchase. The sad thing is, or the bad thing is, even these banking apps are slowing down. We actually can't even confirm confirmations because it's either your transaction isn't successful or it's just hanging or we actually don't even know what's going on. So it's been crippling, even making purchases. For groceries, that's one. And then you obviously know there's also scarcity of wealth. From the black market, for example, that's another problem because we can do quick transfers to these people while you're actually on this black market points. Because you also have to await confirmation. And then there's a long queue of people who are also trying to make these purchases. And then you don't have the Naira notes, you most likely will be going home without a purchase. So is it frustrating? Oh, yes. So imagine a citizen who, for example, I have kids, I can get grocery, I can get electricity, I can get fuel to power my generator. I do not know how I'm going to survive, speaking for citizens now. So it's been a very, very difficult one living. It's been frustrating. You're trying to even go do walk-ins into the bank. That's not happening because all banks are shut down. You can't do walk-ins. I'm sure you've seen videos of mas going in, some showing tantrums, some going naked. They don't have access into these banks. And then for transactions that you've done and then it wasn't successful, you actually can't even confirm it because the banks are locked. So how do we get new Naira notes? I have no idea. The old Naira notes, I still have a few in my wallets, but they're not accepting it anymore. I'm stuck with them, which is definitely a loss because I have the old Naira notes. It can't be swapped. It's not being collected. And then I do not have access to the new Naira notes.
So if you got old Naira and you can't access the bank, how are you supposed to get rid of it?
Yeah, so that's the thing. So CBN has given an ultimatum to banks to say, oh, they should no longer accept old Naira notes. So citizens are stuck with it. Banks aren't even open. So if you're going to the banks, if you're not collecting, banks aren't collecting the old Naira notes anymore.
So
and
you're credited for having these old Naira notes?
No.
So you just lose money?
Yes. They're not accepting the old Naira notes and they're not giving the new Naira notes. Even though the banks were still giving old Naira notes to citizens to spend. Yeah.
So the bank is still issuing worthless notes?
As of last week, yes, I would say that. Thing is, the banks claim they don't have the new Naira notes to give.
So they're giving the old notes?
Yes. So it's either you're taking the old notes or you're walking away without money. So that's why when you go to these ATM points, they're not loaded with any currents because they claim they do not have the new Naira notes.
Makes no sense if they're giving the old notes, which are supposedly worthless.
Exactly, to be out of circulation.
They're not taking these notes back in from you.
No, they're not. Exactly. So it's been frustrating, making anything happen. The livelihood has been terrible. If you do not have a car of your own and you want to use the public transportation or public means of transportation, that's also very difficult because if you don't have a new Naira note, you cannot board these buses. There are no alternatives for this kind of transportation. They do not accept transactions here in Lagos, in Nigeria. So if you don't have the new Naira notes, you probably be trekking or walking down to your destination. How difficult can it get?
I know that creates another safety issue for you as well. Do most vendors prefer cash or do they want to do digital transactions?
Well, we do not know what the deadline is because it's been changed 3-4 times. So people do not want to have the old notes with them. So yes, they do prepare. I wouldn't even say they prefer it anymore because this transaction, most of them are not successful. You actually are already being debited, but then the receiver isn't credited. So I can't say which one is even preferred anymore. Then for the POS points, because they do not have access to bulk cash from the banks, they are not servicing the citizen. Let me give you an example. If you're making a withdrawals of 5,000 Naira, they charge you 100 Naira service charge. If you're doing 10,000 Naira, you're charged 200 Naira service charge on this sum before the scarcity of these notes. Now, the sad thing is, since there's been scarcity of the new Naira notes, there's been service charge of 4,000 Naira or 4,000 to 5,000 Naira on 20,000 Naira notes. Not just the scarcity, and it's not even the absurd, service charge. The thing is, you don't even get these POS points paying anybody. And even if you're lucky enough to find one who is willing to charge you this much, there's still a queue. And it's not even safe that you're even standing out there.
Who's charging you those points? Is it the bank or the vendor?
So it's the vendor because they're also struggling to get money from these banks. Allegedly, we've heard that some teller from some banks or the workers are actually smuggling cash to give these POS vendors at a sum. So you get to tip them before they can give you a large sum as a POS vendor, POS agent. I do not have that as a fact, but the reason why they have to charge that much is because they also need to tip bank guys.
So it's an added tax because they're being taxed themselves to get the cash.
Or it could just be individuals taking advantage of the situation as well.
Right. Yeah, there's always going to be some kind of predatory behavior in situations like this. That leads into this next question that you are a vendor yourself. How is it affecting you as a private business owner?
Okay, I will start with still has been slow, almost crippling, because if citizens don't have money, they don't have access to their own personal cash. I don't think they want to make purchases. So everybody's holding on to the little they have, pending when this clears out. That's one. And because it's an online platform where you do online transactions, monies aren't hitting our own account. It's an e-commerce platform. And because of that, we've even tried alternatives by creating like a WhatsApp link where we can take your orders offline. But then we're still having that issue of getting credit. So we keep trying coming up with different solutions by saying, okay, you know what? You could even do pay on delivery. Unfortunately, these persons don't have money.
But they can't get cash.
Yeah, exactly. So because they don't have cash.
Right.
So is business running as it should be? No. Are we making money or losing cash? We are losing cash because the expenses are still running and then we're still not making money. Yeah, it's a circle. It's really affecting small, medium scale businesses are crippling. Some are dying. Reports also have come to us that even competitors are shutting down for the time being, pending when this is resolved.
Yeah, it seems like it's a real immediate, direct, blunt impact on the economy. There's no cash flow out there. They don't also have a digital backup for it. And you're talking about trying to come up with different solutions and alternatives for payments.
Sadly, none seems to be worked in.
No. Now, I know that Nigeria is supposed to have the highest interest with the cryptocurrency in all of Africa. And obviously, this is the perfect use case scenario for it. Have you ever looked into creating alternative payment solutions through other forms of cryptocurrencies or Bitcoin or something else?
Well, at this point, no. Before now, no. Well, now that you're talking to me, I'm beginning to think how that could work. We were actually thinking e-money could be a solution to this problem. Unfortunately, we're not in a structured government per se, because they had like a 3 months duration to create awareness. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And then there have been loggerheads between the Supreme Court and CBN, who is saying, oh no, we could just do money swap, or we could just use the old notes side by side. Forgetting that they spent about 218 billion naira to redesign these notes. And then there's a case that we do not have physical paper to print with money. So it's best maybe they should just come up with an option to say we do not need physical currencies anymore and look into other options like cryptocurrency and other coins that you mentioned. And now putting it to me, I think it's time I start looking into other solutions, the coins, see how we could make deals and not solely depending on physical cash or Nigerian currency.
You brought up a very good point there in that part of the discussion. You mentioned that the bank is given the reason that they can't distribute everything is because there's a lack of paper to print the currency on. I believe that's the latest news that you guys have gotten from the CBN.
Yes, they reached out to UK and I think France. Yes, they could help. Unfortunately, they say Nigeria has to be on a long waiting list. But yes, you had preparatory plans before designing the notes. I think they should have thought about sourcing paper to print the money. If they spent that much in redesigning the notes, I don't think Nigeria is actually ready for this.
It's really interesting that you say that they give that as a reason as well, because I know that they were trying to implement this Naira, which is going to be totally digitalized anyway, and the whole purpose behind it was to create a cashless society for Nigeria. So it's just really weird reasons that they're going back and forth of why they can't give you guys money. Really unfortunate and crazy situation. What do you actually believe that the government and the central bank can do to help you or help other individuals like you?
I would have said prior to the release or the launch of the new Naira notes, they would have given enough time to create awareness for people to even let go of the old Naira notes. One, that wasn't provided. There was no ample time for people to even, because I'm still stuck with some notes, which is more like my loss right now. That's one. The government also needs to decide if they're totally withdrawing the old Naira notes from the system, because few people are still collecting and some are not. A lot of people are confused. They could still just let people go about spending the old Naira notes and then maybe give themselves, the government could have more time to come up with a plan. Citizens need to make money. Citizens need to spend and are able to access certain daily amenities. But right now, at this point, we cannot.
First of all, they need to have better communication regarding rollout their decisions on the old notes and the new notes, and they need to implement something that's digitalized and not just a CBDC. You guys already have the infrastructure there, and it would be perfect for using cryptocurrencies. And again, I emphasize not the CBDC issued Naira, because the central bank would just get away with doing the same exact thing that they're doing right now with cash assets. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
All right, no problem. Thank you very much.